Bryan Kohberger has a new court, a new judge, and new rules. But is somebody breaking those rules already?
There's a new judge on the Kohberger case, and he's not playing any games. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
So what is going on? It really seems like this new judge is really trying to lay down the law, huh?
Judge Steven Hippler is the new judge in the Latah County court where Bryan Kohberger and his case have been moved. They had their first hearing. It was called a status conference, just to check over the deadlines and the dates and everything else that had been set up in Latah County by Judge. And we had thought that everything was going to change, but maybe not so fast, But one thing that right off the top struck me as kind of odd, and that is that this new judge actually started at the very beginning, started scolding the attorneys.
I do expect, as it probably will come to no surprise to you, for you all to get along. I understand the stakes in this case are as high as they can possibly be.
Can't we all get along?
But you are professionals. You have taken oaths, both as of officers within your jurisdictions, but also as attorneys before this bar. So I expect at all times for you to remain civil to one another, that you not engage in personal attacks, ad hominem attacks, that you not engage in theatrics.
It sounds like he's putting them in timeout.
State the facts or the law to the court, and that when you cite arguments in your briefs, if there is contradictory precedent, I expect to see that.
You know what? Come on now. I mean, as members of the bar, we are all considered to be officers of the court. And so, when you become a member of the bar and you're sworn in, and especially if you're going to do litigation, the American Bar Association has guidelines. Each state has its own ethical guidelines. And, we know all of this stuff. And, as professionals, as all the attorneys at that table and, YouTube land, you might get down in the comments and tell me that I'm not being fair or nice, but all the attorneys, I don't care whether you like them or not, and we've made some comments about them too, they're all members of the bar and they all know all this stuff, and we know that we're supposed to be professional in court, and we know, the thing about attorneys is even if they're on the other side, even if they're opposing counsel, yes, you treat them with respect. Sometimes clients don't understand that, Lainey. I've actually been trying a case and the clients see me out in the hall talking to the attorney on the other side. That doesn't mean I can't be a good advocate. I mean, I've actually, I do a lot of personal injury work, and so I'm up against the insurance companies. And no, I don't agree with anything they do. And I think that they're all out to screw us all out of as much money as possible. But their lawyers and I can be friends. And when I've done criminal cases, if I'm defending, you try and be in as good a terms as you can with the prosecutor. So this is litigation 101. And I don't think anybody in that room or anywhere else that's a member of any bar anywhere needs this type of a scolding. I just thought it was bad.
No, he had some pent-up feelings about some shushing that might have gone on. He heard the rumors.
I mean, he told him everything but don't chew gum in class. Or if you bring candy, bring enough for everyone. Remember that from school? Yeah. But so anyhow, I think I digressed too far. And so then he got into the meat of it all. He got into the dates that things are going to happen. And one of the things was that Judge back in Latah County in Moscow had set the trial date back for June 2nd of 2025. But this judge doesn't like that, and he had two suggestions.
So my concern, because this trial is currently set to begin June 2nd and end approximately August 31st, is having it set to run the entire course of the summer. I think we will find it to be difficult on jurors in particular, jurors who may have children who are out of school, in terms of being able to spend time, go on vacations with them, et cetera. That's one concern. The second concern is with school that typically starts in mid to late August, and jurors or parents who may have kids going off to school, the timing of that through August. And that's my primary concern about that time frame. I had two proposals. One was to start the trial in the evidence portion of the trial the first week of May. And the other would be to start the evidence in early September.
Okay, so early September, we're no longer talking about the school buses. We're no longer talking about the need to make sure the kids aren't, interfering with the court or vice versa, because we're in a big courthouse. This is a big courthouse in Boise, Idaho, as opposed to the little pile of bricks down in, or I should say, up in Moscow. So they went through all the dates that were in the scheduling order that Judge had issued, and they're going through it all. They're going through everything. And the judge at one point said, well, I'm not going to change some of this stuff without a motion from all of you. Now, Lainey, do you remember we were speculating about whether or not Wiliam Thompson would be there?
Mm-hmm.
So were you surprised to see him sitting there?
There was a little bit of conversation going on in our comments, and one of the people was saying like, oh, he's not going to be there because he has this other meeting. So it was weird to see like, oh, like, yeah, like he's still in the case. It's just like, oh, he can't be there. And then all of a sudden he's there. And like you said, he wasn't even addressed. So was it surprising? Yeah, it seemed like it came out of nowhere. It seemed a little random that they wouldn't have addressed him if he was planning on being there.
Yeah, and I guess I'm guilty of kind of prognosticating, and I don't take it back. I don't take it back at all, but I had kind of speculated that when the trial moved from Moscow down to Boise, it's a trip of about 300 miles, plus or minus, depending on where in Latah County you start. Ending up somewhere in Boise, you're going to have to stay overnight, because I wouldn't think if it's a 3-month trial, no human being can commute between those two places. Plus, also, there are other clues we talked about in previous episodes about how it looked like Prosecutor Wiliam Thompson might want to bow out of this case. But he was there. But my prognostication is, and I think that the Idaho Attorney General, who is in Boise, I think that they're going to take a more active role in this case. And just because Mr. Thompson was there for this particular initial hearing doesn't mean he's in it for keeps. And here's one of the reasons I think that Thompson was asked twice some questions by the judge, and he had to turn around to the people sitting behind him and get their advice.
I will throw it to you, Mr. Thompson, is what you want, what you would advocate for.
Yar, could I have just a moment?
No whispering
Your
in
Honor,
the
we
court.
trust the court to do the ex parte hearing, see what's there, and make the best decision, and tell us what the expectations are.
I don't know. I just found that was interesting that the prosecutor was asked a question, and he was always the lead prosecutor. He was the man in charge. He's the man about town up in Moscow, but now he's down in Boise, and he has to turn around. Did you have a question for me, Lainey?
Yeah, well, actually, though, it's just like, is that normal that they would be looking back there trying to figure that out? Like, who is even sitting behind him?
Well, only if it's your boss. And that's my guess. I don't know. That's my speculation. It's, how do they say, IMHO in my humble opinion? I'm thinking that the Idaho Attorney General's office has someone there. They've been in on all the pleadings. If you've been following us, and we've been showing you the pleadings all the way to the bottom, not just the top stuff here, hereby and wherefore, and here we go. No. And if you look all the way in the bottom, the Idaho Attorney General, they've even had some people in the hearings themselves. And so that's my guess. I don't know. He had to turn around and, okay. All right. Just talk to the boss.
Just
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
all right. Do you hear me? It's just like, hold please.
I don't know. So
Me trying to get the answers on a test.
exactly. Yeah. Don't copy off my paper. So they went through all the different guidelines and the different deadlines. And one of the mitigation experts for Ann Taylor for Bryan Kohberger's defense actually passed away. So she, of course, wants more time. The judge reminded them, people work within their time. And if you have 24 hours, 7 days a week, you'll get it done. He actually said that.
Damn.
Said some other things, too. You might have some questions for him about that. But anyhow, they were talking about discovery. And Ann Taylor actually was cautioning that there might be yet another motion to compel.
I do anticipate filing several motions in the motion to compel deadline. As far as discovery goes, I anticipate there may be some follow-up motions. I, of course, will first try to speak with the prosecutor to resolve those.
So Ann Taylor is saying another motion to compel. There have already been 17 discovery requests, and I think 4 motions to compel. The last one was heard earlier in the summer of 2024. And so more discovery. Is that crazy?
It's that's one of the things, and I don't know, hopefully our audience feels similarly to me as this. What is the difference exactly between this motion to compel and the discovery?
Oh, well, you do request for discovery. In any type of litigation, you do request for discovery, interrogatories and requests for documents, all that stuff. So there's a request. When the other side does not give you the material that you want, then you have to do a motion to compel. So there have been 4 of those. The judge heard it didn't really do much. They went in the back room and resolved it all. But so Ann Taylor is now, despite these many rounds of discoveries, now saying, hey, there's still more. There's still more. So now, do you remember in the very beginning, I asked whether people were breaking the rules? In the very beginning of this episode, we were talking about how the new judge had new rules, and he all but came out and said no chewing gum and no passing notes. Oh, wait, he didn't say that. But I want to show you something. Do you think somebody broke one of those rules?
I anticipate there may be some follow-up motions. I, of course, will first try to speak with the prosecutor to resolve those.
Did you see that?
What the heck is that?
Ashley Hush Jennigs is passing a note to Mr. Thompson. She passed a note. You're not allowed to do that, are you?
It's a note that says, in the future, maybe don't turn around to consult for answers.
Did you see that? She passed a note in court.
Is that normal? Is that normally how attorneys try to converse between each other so that they're not talking? Or is it bizarre that that's happening in the first place?
I don't know what's normal. If you have a co-counsel, it's not unusual to whisper, what's for lunch? Okay, she passed a note. You weren't supposed to do that in 7th grade. But anyhow, so now we get to the other stuff that happened in that hearing. Lainey, you had something about the megabytes, the gigabytes, the terabytes.
Well, before we even get into all of that nonsense, let's talk about how he started the whole thing saying, I'd like to tell you I'm happy to be here. But why start with an untruth? That was a very blunt thing to say. Greeting everybody.
That's how he started the whole hearing. I cut that out in the beginning. We only have so much time to get these video cuts in. So before he gave all those rules about no talking in class, that's what he said. I'd like to tell you that I'm happy to be here, but why start with a mistruth? Wait a minute. A million years ago, when I loaded and unloaded trucks and tractor-trailer trucks in a warehouse and drove a forklift with guys who used the F word 50 times in one sentence, that's how we talk. I wish I could. It's Monday morning. I wish I could tell you I was happy to be here, but to hear it from a judge, really?
It's like me walking into class. This whole thing, it's in a classroom. They're passing notes. They're whispering. They're checking for answers from the back.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, I do not know about Idaho. I'm not a member of the bar in Idaho, but generally speaking, these judges do pretty well for themselves. Those of you and us who struggle for benefits and health insurance and all the rest, they're taken care of pretty well, and they get a nice pension in the end. And so, I'm sorry. I couldn't, we might cut that part out.
He's sassy pants.
But to tell attorneys that he really doesn't want to be there, is that the right judge for this case? Is that the right judge for this case that's not even happy to be here? I don't know. I don't know. I've had a couple of classmates that I went to school with, law school, and they're now judges. And I think, I don't know. I haven't asked them personally, but they look pretty happy on the bench. To have that job. It's a good job. If you don't want it, there's a door right behind you, Lainey.
So now, I guess talking about how he's taking this over, it seems like he's gonna uphold the non-dissemination order.
Yeah, that was one of the things that he said is, I expect you all to respect the non-dissemination order. So to those of you down in the comments section who have speculated about that and asked me about that, that's what he said. Is it open to reopening in the future? Maybe, but for now, he's saying don't chew gum in class. And, I expect you all to respect that. So for now, that's the answer.
And you touched I'm dialing it kind of back to what you were asking about before. We have new information. We have almost 400 gigabytes. We have 398 gigabytes of new information. But what is that? What kind of information do we have?
Well, I was going to ask you because you're the tech expert, but basically what happened was that Ann Taylor said, I have 398 gigabytes of new information. And then later the judge said, wait a minute, is that new information? And he asked Ashley Hush Jennigs that question. And she said she wasn't sure, even though she is the one that apparently is the team member most involved with the discovery. So Ashley Hush Jennigs said, I'm not really certain. And I don't expect that Ann Taylor knows either because she's new on the case. But a long time ago, we were talking about 51 terabytes, which I don't know whatever happened to those. Maybe those went out with the last week's fish. But how much give us an idea, how much is 398 gigabytes?
It's a lot of hours of video footage. That's the main thing that I can think of. I don't know if you're looking at like documents, like Word documents and stuff like that, or photos even, that could be a lot of information, unless by some miracle we had some 4K photos, some 4K video. It's a lot of information. We're looking at almost, which, when you compare it to 50 terabytes, it doesn't sound as crazy because it's just like, 1,000 gigabytes is a terabyte. So we're looking at about almost half a terabyte, lots of video footage. This video that you're watching right now, for context, is going to be we've been yapping here. This video might be anywhere from 1 to 2 gigabytes. So imagine sitting there and watching YouTube for hours and hours and hours and hours. That's what I think of when I think of 398 gigabytes. If you need to get space on your computer, it's going to be really hard to find 398 gigabytes worth of anything to delete unless it's high definition video.
Now, I see down in the comments that people often say, well, we all know about Fuzzy Wuzzy Was a Car, the Linda Lane footage, which purports to be his car going back and forth. But in all seriousness, people have asked in the comments, hey, there's no video. There's no video in this day and age. This happened in 2022 of Kohberger's car on King Road or Queen Road. There's no video of his car behind the property, which is where it's purported that he parked and went in. There's no video of Mr. Kohberger going into the house. These are young people in that house, 6 young people allegedly, supposedly in that house at that time. Everybody has a phone. Refrigerators have phones. So many people say in the comments to me, how can this be that they pin Mr. Kohberger? And in this day and age, 2022, we did not have some video of him. So, if I'm certainly not going to ask you, Lainey, but, if neither Ashley Jennigs nor Ann Taylor knew what was in all those megabytes, I just get out the dun, because I don't know. There's just so much. I mean, they have a white Elantra going here and going there and going past, I think, the weed shop and the liquor store. And then they do have him the next day when he goes into the supermarket and walks around a little bit. One of the things that they said in the beginning was the way that they initially felt that the white Hyundai Elantra was the suspect vehicle number 1 was because a gas station attendant actually saw the car, and she, called the law enforcement and said, I saw a car right around that time. But, what's in there? what could possibly be in there? I mean, how long will it take them to go through 398 gigabytes? Do you have any idea?
I can't. I would lose my mind if I had to do that. And it's new information, but just because it's new information doesn't mean it's relevant information.
No.
So you could be watching these videos for hours and nothing happens. This could be 24-hour surveillance of that gas station. And furthermore, I mean, if we're talking about the gas station, it's like, I saw a car passing around that time. That's interesting that you would even notice that, I feel, as a gas station.
Well, apparently the story is that she, she heard about the case and she went back on her time off. She went in the back room of the gas station and just started sifting through all of the videos, thinking, well, geez, this is, if something bad happened at 1122 King Road, this is one of the roads out of town. So she went back and started looking through, it's not tape, but she started looking through the data that had been stored at around that time. And lo and behold, she found a vehicle and she called it into law enforcement. But, in my younger days, I did do some criminal defense. I still do a little bit, but in my younger days, I did do some criminal defense. And I had the privilege or misfortune to have to go to the Attorney General's office in Boston. And I went into the Massachusetts Attorney General's office to, talk about a particular case at one point. It's huge. Now, I'm sure Idaho's isn't as big as Massachusetts, but it's huge. There's tons of people sitting around that probably helped win a campaign. I didn't say that. We'll edit that out too. But, there's a lot of people sitting around. It's not just the Attorney General who you see on TV. There are minions. There are many attorneys from, senior attorneys all the way down to younger attorneys who just get out of law school and they're in legitimate, valid training, and assistants and paralegals and, all the rest. So I imagine that Idaho has a similar structure, perhaps not as big. But I mean, my point is this, and I'm sorry I took so long to get to my point, but that is that there are a lot of people that are employed in these offices. Can't somebody sit down and, okay, you take the first couple of gigabytes, you take the next couple? I mean, can't they divvy it up?
If we're drawing straws, I'm trying to get the one that I don't want to be involved in this. I don't know. Like, obviously they have the resources. These people are getting paid, but at the end of the day, just looking at any government website gives you an indication of how tech savvy the people working in these offices are. Andrew is spectacularly well versed in video information and speeding things up. I imagine it's like you give someone 10 gigabytes to go through. They're not watching that on 2 times speed. They're sitting there waiting for the whole thing to slowly pass.
Whatever happened to the 51 terabytes? Remember that?
I'm assuming that this has to be on top of this because this is a minuscule amount of data. So I don't know who's going through all that information either. I can't even imagine.
Because in earlier episodes that we talked about and in earlier days of this case, it had been mentioned that was one of the reasons that the defense, would be ineffective assistance of counsel if they pushed them to try the case this past summer, which was the original plan. Remember, the original plan was to try the case back in. I had to consult with someone. The original plan was to get the case tried in the summer of 2024. And one of the reasons was they had these 51 terabytes of information. And I haven't heard about those 51 terabytes. Have you? I mean, I kind of read a lot and watch a lot, and I haven't, maybe they chucked it out. I don't know.
I mean, maybe there's no way to say what would be in that. I'd imagine if it's 50 terabytes of information, that a lot of that is junk. I mean, this laptop that I'm operating on right now, I can store on this laptop about as much data as that around 400 gigs that Ann Taylor was mentioning. For it to be the 50 terabytes, that's 100 of these laptops.
Wow. Are you volunteering to work for Ann Taylor?
No, in no universe. Nobody wants to go through that info. But this is another reason, and this is kind of a little trailing off, and it's not going to really apply in this court case. But when you have information like this is why AI is becoming the way that it is because how are you going to have people go through that much stuff? This is when you send the video through AI, find any discrepancies, spit anything out that's a red flag, and you're going to miss stuff when you do that.
Ann Taylor, don't tell Lainey I said this, but she's volunteering to take the 398 gigabytes, and her hourly rate is only about, $500 an hour? So she's volunteering. Don't tell her I said this. Lainey Law is volunteering to take the 398 gigabytes, and she will have it done pronto.
Me and my good friend ChatGPT will go through that
Oh.
info.
So then the final note is, what are they going to change? Right before we recorded this episode, I did check the court docket, and there was no decision. We do expect a decision from the judge on what will happen with regard to the trial. So if that comes out, we will be certain to let you know. And I guess a final note is that I've been scolded down below. I read all the comments, by the way. We read them all. If you personalize it, yeah, we do delete it. No apology. But I've been scolded that this is a very serious case. It is a very serious case. And, we're not the only ones that smile. The day goes by quicker if you smile. But it has been impressed upon me that there's seriousness of purpose, and we do have that. We do our research. We get it together. I watched the entire hearing. In fact, we live streamed it, and I went back and watched it twice more just so I was certain that we had it all. But people have scolded me for being too lighthearted in these, and it is true. We have to remember that this is all about Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. And so we apologized. And in the comments, I apologize to the families and to others, because we do recognize that, it's a horrible thing that happened. It's a terrible tragedy that happened. And at the same time, the courts have always been a place of community gathering and a spectacle by the community. The churches and the courts have always been a top place for Americans to gather and see what's going on. So that's as far as I'll take the apology. I don't know. That's my closing thought, Lainey Law. I'm sorry to bum everybody out on what is, at least here in the East Coast, a beautiful day. You have any closing thoughts for us to bring us back up to where we should be?
Oh, well, I think that a little bit of dark humor when things seem so ridiculous, is sometimes helps the heart a little bit. We do talk about some dark topics, and we try to make it as palatable as possible. So we appreciate you guys, and we appreciate your comments, whether they're nice, funny. A lot of you guys say some silly stuff that we appreciate. And I look forward to seeing what you guys got to say about this episode.
Yep. Thanks a lot, people. Stay with us. Whether you're in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.